Hello, and welcome to Opera in Brief, the show that summarizes operas for your convenience and entertainment. Today we will be discussing Giuseppe Verdi's 1867 opera Don Carlo, based on the real-life Prince Carlos of Asturias who lived in the 16th century. Act 1 opens in a monastery where a bunch of monks are praying. Don Carlo cries because he's secretly in love with Elizabeth de Valois, who's married Carlo's father, King Philip II. Carlo's friend Rodrigo is like, pull yourself together, there are Protestants being oppressed in Flanders, so they leave to help the Protestants. Meanwhile, in a garden, Princess Eboli sings for the ladies of the court. Elizabeth enters. Rodrigo gives her a letter from Carlo and she agrees to talk to Carlo alone. Eboli guesses that Carlo is in love, but guesses that it's her and not Elizabeth that he loves. Once they're alone, Carlo begs Elizabeth to have the king send him to Flanders. She agrees and he's like, also I love you, and she's like, I'm literally your stepmother, no. So he storms off. The king busts in and says, what's going on here? Why is my wife alone? And he fires her lady-in-waiting. Then he sees Rodrigo and says, I like the cut of your jib. If you need anything, let me know. And Rodrigo's like, funny you should ask. Maybe leave the Protestants in Flanders alone? And the king's like, be careful what you wish for. The Grand Inquisitor is watching. By the way, is my wife sleeping with my son? And Rodrigo's like, wow, gross, no. I can watch her for you if you're nervous though. And the king's like, deal. End Act 1. Act 2 opens back at the garden. Don Carlo is there because he got a love note, which he thinks is from Elizabeth. But it turns out it was from Eboli, who shows up in a veil. Carlo gushes over the woman he thinks is Elizabeth, so she learns of his secret and threatens to tell the king out of spite. Rodrigo shows up and tells her to watch herself. She's like, you don't know who you're messing with, and leaves. Rodrigo tells Carlo to hand over any incriminating documents because stuff's about to get messy. Outside a cathedral, there's gonna be an auto da fe. The king and queen are there and Carlo comes in with a bunch of Flemish people begging for freedom. The king refuses and has everyone arrested. Carlo demands control of Flanders and draws his sword, but Rodrigo stops him. The king makes Rodrigo a duke and has Carlo thrown in jail. End Act 2. Act 3 opens in King Philip's study. He's feeling a little down because he knows his wife doesn't love him. The Grand Inquisitor shows up and Philip's like, should I kill my traitorous son? And the Inquisitor is like, well, even God killed his son, so you should probably kill Carlo and also Rodrigo. And the king is like, but I like Rodrigo. And the Inquisitor is like, I can destroy you. So the king relents. Elizabeth runs on shouting that someone stole her jewelry box and Philip is like, it's right here. Open it. No. So Philip breaks it open and sees a portrait of Carlo. He shouts, you've been cheating on me, and she faints. Rodrigo and Eboli run on and everybody ponders the situation. The king realizes his wife was faithful. Rodrigo promises to save Carlo, Eboli regrets her jealousy, and Elizabeth just feels all kinds of messed up. Everyone leaves except Elizabeth and Eboli. Eboli admits that she lied to the king about Elizabeth having an affair with Carlo and also says that she herself was the one having an affair with the king. Elizabeth is like, get thee to a nunnery, and then cries all alone. Meanwhile, Carlo has been imprisoned. Rodrigo comes in and says he's taking responsibility for Carlo's incriminating documents, so he gets shot in the chest and dies. The king comes in to free Carlo, who he thinks is innocent, and Carlo is like, you killed my best friend, go away, but a mob shows up demanding Carlo's freedom and Eboli helps him escape the scene amid the confusion. End Act 3. Act 4 opens back in the monastery. Elizabeth prays and Don Carlo shows up. They're both like, wow, a lot of messed up stuff has happened. Maybe the world is telling us we shouldn't get together. The king shows up with the Grand Inquisitor to have Carlo executed, but out of nowhere the ghost of King Charles V shows up to pull Carlo into the tomb and bury him alive instead? End of opera.